Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to welcome you to this space for real conversations about how we live, how we show up day in and day out, because the quality of our life is shaped by our habits. What we do in ordinary time allows us to be extraordinary. We can unpack what it takes to truly live well and be well in real life. Welcome to Life by Design. And I'm just so excited that you're here. This is all about filling up your cup. I'm so excited to have you be part of this conversation with Ariana Joy. She is a woman on social media who I have admired from afar. And thankfully, a mutual friend, Marissa, was like, oh, we can put you two together. This is the result of an amazing conversation all about how we can look after ourselves while also carrying enormous amounts of responsibility as parents, as supporters, as members of community. And I hope you find this as delightful and joy-filled as I do. I'm excited to bring some joy into your day, and it's happening with this conversation with Ariana. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, I appreciate that because I'll share with you when your information, when your content, when your ideas, when your like real world updates come across my feed, I always am left smiling. Like you are
Oh,
just such a good dose of joy and hope in a very noisy world of social media. And I know that's just one of the things you do. So can you tell our listeners a wee bit about the work that you're doing right now and
yeah.
just the good stuff you're putting in the world?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. It's so nice to hear because sometimes when you're creating content, you don't really know, like, is this annoying for people? Is this fun for
Yeah.
people? Is this what they want to see? And I always say I'm like the worst influencer in the world because I don't plan anything and I don't curate anything. I just like kind of go with the flow. But I
Yeah.
think that that's what makes it so fun and what
Yes.
really helps me connect to people because it really is exactly who I am and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been so fun. So that's mostly what I do is content creation,
Yeah.
influencer work. I post on Instagram, sometimes TikTok, but not very much.
Yeah.
And I also have two podcasts. So I
Mhm.
have Your Cup of Joy,
Yes.
which was like an extension of my Instagram and just a way to speak in longer format about issues or topics or things that I think need a little more space than a 60-second reel.
Yeah.
And then the other podcast, I often say I live two lives
Yeah.
because my other podcast is with my best friend Renee and it's called Friend of and it's
Yeah.
reality TV recaps
Mhm.
and interviews and it's just so much fun pop culture. We just
Yeah.
talk about things going on in the world and it's like a very fun little outlet of me apart from
Yeah.
parenting.
Yeah. I absolutely love all of those pieces. And what I really hold space and recognize is that, like, you are building a career, like a
Yeah.
lifestyle, a livelihood, creating content, being authentic, sharing these big ideas. And I'm sure, like, I know myself, I'm just so curious, like, how do you build careers like this? And I know it's so interesting that we like jump into seeing you where you are now with a remarkable followership. You have this amazing community. You have all
Yeah.
of these supporters, but you didn't start there. Obviously, none
No.
of it. So, like, how does someone even begin to create this as a way for a livelihood and a lifestyle?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I kind of fell into it. I had a friend who was in the influencer space way back before it was like really a big thing. It was
Yeah.
so new then. And she had a lot of followers, Sarah, the
Yes.
Bricks of Pie, you probably know her.
Yes.
And so because I had been tagged in some of her things at that point in time, like if you were tagged in something, like people would follow you right
Yeah.
away. And so I had a decent following just from that, from being around her and being with her. And then, when I got pregnant with twins, I never anticipated having twins. I started really finding connection with people online because
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody else who had twins. I didn't know anybody who had had a NICU journey, and my
Mhm.
twins were born premature. And it was also the pandemic. So it was like a time where I really never imagined feeling lonely. And I was the
Yeah.
most lonely I'd ever been. I was searching for answers that nobody could give me. And selfishly, I was using the app as a journal because back
Yeah.
then it wasn't really reels. It was like a still photo and
Yeah.
then a big caption, and people would
Yeah.
spend time reading your caption. And so I was using Instagram as a journal.
Yeah.
And because it was the pandemic, whether you had a kid or a preemie baby or not, people resonated with the feelings of like loneliness,
Yeah.
isolation, feeling sad, being down in the dumps,
Yeah.
searching for hope
Yeah.
and resiliency. Like
Yeah.
it was this wild time. And so I think because people felt connected to that, it really took off. And so then I got a manager and really started looking at it as a business.
Yeah, which is remarkable, and, it's interesting, every person I've spoken to and I was just speaking to Scott Clary, and he has, 1.8 million followers, he builds this remarkable content, and it was so interesting because he was like, "This is like, I don't sell anything. Like,
Yeah.
I don't sell anything," and I'm just like, "How does that work?" Because I think there's this kind of again, forgive me for my own I don't know enough about your space in terms of, like, well, is it all just, like, sponsorships? Is it all this? And like, I just when Scott was like, "Robyn, I don't sell anything. Like, these are ideas. I have connections with people, and this
Yeah.
is how this unfolds." I'm like, "Dude, I know nothing about this space." Like, so again, how does again, authentic connection, you build community about something
Mhm.
that is you're passionate about, it's real, it's raw in some cases because it's not all just highlights and, sparkles and unicorns. Like, you're
Totally.
going through something very complicated, very vulnerable in terms of your
Mhm.
shares, yet you somehow then can make this into a business. Like, I just think that's so remarkable. And I heard you say you got a manager to start making it in a business, but
Mhm.
what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's mostly everybody is different, like, some people
Yeah,
do have a product and they sell
of course.
something, other people focus a lot on, like, affiliate marketing where you
Yeah,
post a link and you get a portion of that sale.
yeah,
um, I really focus on having a real connection with my audience, sharing my real life with them, and
yeah.
having that connection through that, and so then my brand partnerships are where the bulk of my income
Right.
really comes from.
Yeah, which is amazing because what
Thanks.
I love is that as somebody who was on a particular career trajectory, you pivoted, you changed your mind. And I tell you, I celebrate women who have essentially had a reckoning, right? I've realized what do all of the women I admire that I again love being able to talk to like yourself, what is the common variable? And
Mhm.
essentially what I've come back with is this idea you've had a reckoning where all of a sudden you're like, I'm changing my mind. And that's something that you did and very successfully. So can you
Thanks.
tell us a wee bit about how do you kind of see like, okay, this is the trajectory I'm on, but realize, no, I don't want that. I want something different. I'm allowed to change my mind and then be where you are right now.
Yeah, it's really wild because I always I volunteered a lot in my undergrad. I thought I wanted to work in the mental health space. I
Mhm.
actually started a master's in counseling psychology. I thought I was going to be a therapist. That
Yeah.
was like my dream, what I really wanted. I thought. I also
Mhm. Of
think part of it was that other people put that in my brain and I started
course.
to believe it. I don't think it was actually ever what I really wanted.
Mhm.
And those skills are transferable. Like I use those
100%.
skills in the conversations I have with my community all the time. I use them in the content that I share and the way that I create. Um but then I started in real estate. I met my husband, Mike, who was
Yeah.
selling real estate. I went on a trip with him with a bunch of other realtors, and they were like, "You should be a realtor."
Yeah.
And so again, I kind of took what other people said and was like, "Sure, like that sounds
Yeah.
like fun. I'll try it." And because I'm an adaptable human, I think
Yes.
like it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I really did. I loved being a realtor. I loved the negotiations.
Mhm.
I like to win, so I loved a
Of course you
challenge.
do.
Like,
Yeah.
it was motivating to me, and I did really enjoy it, but as my online space really started amping up, I thought, "Okay, now I'm wearing so many hats that I'm just" Are you allowed to swear on this podcast?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm, like, half-assing
Yes.
everything, and then I'm constantly feeling like I'm always failing. I'm never
Yes.
feeling like I'm doing a good job because I can't. I physically
Yeah.
can't do all of these things. So
Yeah.
I felt like I had been handed like this beautiful thing that really would have been a dream of mine. And I was
Yeah.
just saying, like, nah, it's okay. I'll just
Yeah.
do a little bit. And so I really decided then, like, okay, I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to park my real estate license. My husband has a team of people that want to be selling. They're going to
Yeah.
give my clients a better service than
Mhm.
I'm able to do because I don't have the capacity. I had kids at that time,
Yeah.
3. And so I just was like, okay, I'm going to focus fully. I'm going to put my efforts into this thing. And it's something that I love. Like, I think I really realized you had mentioned on your episode with me on your cup of joy that, like, in your 40s, you have this, like, like this thing where like you just go full force and
Yeah,
you know what you believe in and you really focus on that. And
yeah,
I'm feeling like I'm having that. I'm in my 30s, but I'm just feeling like I am so confident in who I am now.
yes.
I'm so confident in what I want, and I know what makes me happy. So I'm gonna do those things, and the business just kinda comes with that.
I totally appreciate that and love it, and you're absolutely right. Like, you have figured it out, and one of the things as high performers, which clearly you are, is
Thank you.
that just because I can do it, doesn't mean I have to do it, right? So,
Yes.
like, just because you could figure out real estate, right, that doesn't mean you have to stay in that particular role, and you know what? For
Yeah.
that season, it probably served you really well,
It was
and that's
great.
okay, and we can say, "Thank you," next, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, and I even remember where I had a moment where and I've shared this in my book, I've shared this in other places where I had this kind of like come to Jesus moment where I was sitting there at a table, like at a kitchen table, and my oldest Hunter at the time was like 14, I believe. And I had just another no good, rotten, horrible day at the university. But the problem was on paper, the university role was my dream job. It's like I went from high school dropout to a full-time permanent position at university. Like everyone on the outside would look at this and be like, wow, what a comeback story. She's living the dream job.
Mhm.
And it was the dream job for a season,
Mhm.
but it got to a point where it literally was killing me. Like it literally, my health was deteriorating, like all this
Yeah.
stuff was going wrong. And I remember Hunter saying to me, he's like, Mama, you have a rough day. I go, yeah, it was another like terrible day. There's probably a lot of cursing involved in that description. And then he said, hey, you know how you told me when I was younger? And I love when the teenager does that like time travel. Like, do you remember when I was younger? It's like, dude, you were 14. It
Yeah,
wasn't that
you are
long
young.
ago.
Yeah.
You are a young child. You still have collagen literally oozing out of your face. So I was just like, yes, I remember Hunter when you were young. And he said, and you told me that I could be anything and do anything I want when I grow up if I just showed up, had the right attitude, and put in the effort. And I'm like, yeah,
Mm.
100%. And he said, why can't you? Like, why can't you chase down those big goals? And he's like, Mom, if like, I don't know why you're staying in this role. He's like, I would bet on you every time to look after my brother and sister and I.
Aw.
So he's just like, could you just do something different? That's something that makes you happy. And I remember like resigning my post at that point and just being like, holy, I'm allowed to change my mind. I'm
Yeah.
allowed to say, hey, thank you. And I want to try this thing, which feels so much more in alignment
Yes.
with how I wanted to be able to show up for my family and for myself. So I just love, again, when women have reckonings, because
Yeah.
on the other side, it's just real and it shows up in ways that I think none of us could even imagine.
Totally, and you can succeed so much more when you're passionate about what you're doing, and it's not that I didn't love real estate, like you said, at that time in my life, it really did serve such a good purpose, I
Yeah.
really loved it, but as I had kids and other responsibilities and wanted more flexibility in my timing and to be
Yep.
home for dinner with them, like, I was allowed to change my mind, and it went from this, "Oh, I'm supposed to love this," like,
Yeah.
a lot of people would really be so happy in this space,
Yeah.
like, just because they are doesn't mean that I have to be, and it was
Yeah.
like a really, like, true feeling where I was like, "Okay, I'm allowed to want to
Yeah.
do what makes me happy, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make me, like, a failure or a bad person, I can change my mind."
Yeah.
But
And
it took
I
a long time for me to get there.
Oh, we totally do. There's work, there's therapy, there's work, there's coaching, there's a really great group of women around us that help us step into those moments, right? Like, we're
Totally.
not meant to do that alone, and that's one of the biggest when I know personally when people say, like, "How did you do that shift?" Like, it's you're stepping into the unknown, you're giving up security, you're giving up that kind of known trajectory.
Yes.
It's because I had the right people around me.
Yep.
Because when we have the right people, whether it be friendships, partners, even our kids, when we
Yeah.
know how to make what matters most, it does make a really big difference. We can't do
It's
this
so
alone.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. So while you're having this explosion of excellence in your new defined, there's not quite a job description for what I get to do, but kind of, but we make it up, which I love.
Yeah.
So you have this resume that's growing. You've also embarked on this remarkable health and well-being journey, right? Like, and
Thanks.
I love how when you're showing your clips at CrossFit, when you're showing your clips of these different competitions that you're doing, like you are literally beaming. Like you
Thank
are
you.
beaming because this isn't a woman who's trying to hate herself healthy. This is a woman who is tapped into something that works for you.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that.
how did you get there? Like, how do you get to the point where you are lifting these things, you are doing these workouts, you are competing, and like most people would be like, "Oh my gosh, I have to do this." And you're just
Mm.
like, you're living it. You're having the best time doing these things that we know have a benefit to your body, but also your psychology and all the good work you're doing.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that. The best compliment ever. And I get this message time and time again, like, girl, you're glowing. And
Yeah.
it's like, when you're pregnant and people are like, oh, you're glowing because you're so
Yeah.
happy. Like, this feels like that. I
Yeah.
was at the lowest point I have ever been postpartum. I
Mhm.
was, and it's not even like my body composition. It's not
Yeah.
about the weight.
Yeah.
I truly was mentally in a terrible, terrible
Yeah.
spot. I lost who I was. I had no idea what I enjoyed doing anymore. I had no hobbies. I
Mhm.
really thought I thought to be a good mom, you had to give 100% of yourself away to your kids.
Yeah.
I really truly I don't know if that was modeled to me or if I had heard that somewhere or what put that in my mind, but I truly believed I
Yeah.
had to give up everything in order to be a good mom, and all I wanted to be was a good mom.
Mhm.
And so I had completely lost myself and I was not a good mom. Like then
Yeah.
I was like having a shorter temper. I
Mhm.
was depressed. So I wasn't able to like get up and cook the meals I wanted
Yeah.
to. I wasn't baking for fun anymore. Like I was doing the bare minimum because I had to
Yeah.
and hating myself. Like
Yeah.
it makes me cringe to say that, but I really truly looked at myself and thought like, who am I?
Yeah.
And it was that moment where I was like, "Okay, something has to give because I can't be like this anymore." I was having extreme rage. I
Yeah.
was so upset all the time, and I wasn't me anymore.
Mhm.
And so I thought, "Okay, like, I need to make a change, and how am I gonna do that?" And truly, like, I went to my doctor. I was prescribed medication
Yeah.
for depression, and she looked at me and she said, "Ariana, a lot of people, like, are in this
Yeah.
place. If
Yeah.
you take this medication, like, it could help you."
Yeah.
Also, it because I was like, "I don't know if I wanna take something." She
Yeah.
said, "I'm giving you the prescription, but if you can find it in yourself to move your body in some way, to go for a walk, to go to the gym, if you can get off the couch and do those things,
Yeah.
you won't have to take this, and it will give you the same effect."
Yeah.
And I'll never forget her saying that to me because I did feel my therapist was like, "Go and fill that prescription.
Yeah.
That's like step 1." So
Yeah.
I did, and it's still in my cupboard. I just cleared out
Yeah.
our medicine cabinet, and it's in there.
Yeah.
But I really took that as, okay, like, now I have 2 options. Either way, I'm gonna figure this out, but I'm gonna try option 1 first. I'm gonna really try my best to just 5 minutes a day move my
Yeah.
body. Get up off the couch at the end of the night when I feel like I really can't.
Yeah.
And it was those little tiny steps that really pushed me forward, and then it was like I caught the bug. Like, I was like,
Oh,
"I
yeah.
can't get enough now," you know?
Yeah, I love that, and what I really just appreciate and hold space for is that, first of all, what you're describing is a situation that a lot of people find themselves in. It's like
Yeah,
all of a sudden you, like, look up one day and you're like, "What the F? Like, who am I? I don't even have hobbies anymore. Do I even really have friends?" Like, we
totally.
just completely go through this season where, again,
Yep,
maybe it's a bit of sleep deprivation, maybe a bit of, like, all the things, right? Where it's like,
yeah,
"Okay, I've literally been, like, stuck in the zombie state,"
yep,
and then we have this awakening for whatever reason. And for some people, it's a medical crisis. For some people, it's just whatever that moment is that wakes you up and says,
mhm,
there's got to be a different way.
yeah,
And what I just really hold space for is you shared that, like, you went to seek support, right? You didn't
totally.
try to sit there by yourself and white knuckle it.
Mhm,
And you know what? For some folks, they do take that med because it's the only way they can even get their foot into the door to start something. And if
yeah,
you need to use that as that wee bit of a bridge, there's zero judgment. Like, you go do that. So some people need that pharmaceutical support to be able to even do anything.
yeah,
And we know that in some persons, they're able to find physical outlets to be able just to start getting their bodies back into attunement, right? And
mm,
we know as soon as you go outside, your body's going to start to release that dopamine. We call it vitamin N, right? Vitamin
yeah,
nature does good for us. And then
totally.
it becomes so reinforcing
Mm,
because you're doing it for the right reasons, right?
mhm,
And that's one of the things, as somebody who navigated that whole kind of trying to hate yourself healthy
yeah,
for decades, it's like it doesn't work because it's about that relationship with our bodies and how we start to see our bodies in a different way and how it can just be such an unlock for finding our power. And there's something pretty remarkable as a woman navigating the world when you are strong. right?
Totally.
Like physically strong, I think helps with mental toughness. And it's not
Totally.
that we are, it's not that we're bulletproof, but we will face the mountain. We will face the
For
hard
sure.
thing because half the time, what we just did in the gym or what we just did outside, even if it's just squeezing in 10 minutes to do some stretching, it shows us that we have agency. We have agency
Mhm.
in our body, and that helps us navigate all the stuff.
It's so true, and I wanna note too, like, for some people, it's a combination. Some people take
Yes.
medication and move their body. Some
Yeah.
people do one or the other, and there's no shame in anything. Like, I
Yeah.
would say for some people, that's completely life-changing,
Yeah.
and I am so pro do anything that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Um But I also go back to it's so this is kind of crazy, but I had my second birth, but my 3rd child
Yes.
was a home birth at home because my first birth was quite traumatic, and I, like, held my breath every time I went past the hospital. I was like, "I can't go there. I need
Yeah.
to give birth at home." So I gave birth to Callie at home, and one of my birth affirmations, like, I was so much stronger and so much
Yeah.
more informed the second time, and one of my birth affirmations that I kept telling myself and I had written on a piece of paper right in front of me when I was giving birth was so simple, but it just said, "I can do hard things."
Mhm.
And now at CrossFit, like,
Yeah.
almost every day, I'm telling myself halfway through the workout, like, "I
Yeah.
can do hard things, and this is me doing it." And when
Yeah.
I gave birth to Callie, I've never felt more powerful or more strong in my entire life. Like, it's the highest high you can ever
Yeah.
have is giving birth, and I just remember like, I'll remember that feeling always, and
Yeah.
CrossFit is like a little small version of that. Like,
Yes.
it's like when you
Yes.
complete another workout or you, like, hit another PR, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
I can do hard things and I just did it." Like, how
Yeah.
cool. You feel so good, and the community piece to it is so cool too. You're
Yeah.
cheering on your friends and you're
Mhm.
seeing other people achieve their goals, and I just think for me, it's so much more than just a workout, and it's
Yes.
become a non-negotiable. Like, when people are like, "Oh my gosh, you go so many times a week." I'm like, honestly, the days that I don't go, like, I don't get as much work done.
Mhm.
I don't feel as good. I'm not as happy.
Yeah.
Like, it's a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah, 100%. And what I really appreciate holding space there is, like, figuring out what works for you,
Yeah,
right? Like, you figure out what works for you, you found your community, you're able to do it with, like, great people. Again, you're in an alignment with why this makes sense for you to do it because you're doing it because it, like, makes you a better parent, it makes you a better partner, a better friend.
totally.
And I remember recently I was on a podcast and, somebody said, "Oh, Robin, what's your morning routine?" And my morning routine is not complicated. So I shared it and they're like, "Wow, don't you feel guilty for, like, taking that much time for yourself?" And I kinda, like, had this, like, moment of, like, "No, I feel guilty if I yell at my husband." Right?
Correct.
Like, I feel guilty if I'm, like, short or I'm not very productive with my team because I didn't do the thing that I know sets me up for success. So, like, I don't ever feel guilty, like, doing this stuff. I feel guilty when I don't do the stuff, and then they have to deal with, like, me afterwards, right? Like, it's
Yes.
like that feels not very kind,
Yeah.
but being kind to myself doing this is, like, it's actually feels like a little dose of community service for everybody around me, right? Like, it's
Totally.
like, this is my community service, which makes me more approachable. It makes me more productive, more focused,
Yes,
right?
I
So I
love that shift in perspective because my whole thing of starting my other podcast too was like, I wanna switch the narrative of self-care is selfish. Like, we should not feel guilty for taking a little bit of time for ourselves when all we're doing all day is pouring ourselves out for other
yeah,
people.
yeah,
Like, that should not ever cross your guilt should never be a part of that.
yeah,
The unfortunate part is as a mother especially, guilt is, like, ingrained in us. I feel like
mhm,
it's almost inevitable. I try really hard to not feel guilty.
yeah,
Often I do. But like you said, like, that's it makes me show up as a better human in every single aspect of my
yeah,
life, as a friend, as a parent, in my career,
yeah,
online, everything. I'm just a better human when I go
yeah.
to the gym.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So, I echo that sentiment 100%. And in my research, we talk about this idea that self-care isn't selfish, it's science, right? Like, there is science
Yes.
that backs it up that this
Yeah.
is what sets us up for success. And, just recently, the boys and I were we do a mama boy weekend once a year where we go away
Oh,
to, a different state and check out a football game and a basketball game. And anyway, we literally just did this past weekend. And one of the things that Hunter said that just stuck with me so much is in the morning, I like got up and I went for my walk and did my thing. And it's always like I say it, I'm foraging for coffee, right? And I'll find a coffee
I
place
love
that's
that.
like 2 kilometers away, right? Like I know there's coffee in the lobby, but I'll be like, no, I'm going to go forage for coffee. It feels like just kind of primal that it's like, this is what I'm going to go do. And I get my coffee and I come back. And Hunter said to me, he said, Mama, I just noticed the way that like how you show up and how you've designed our life. He's like, it literally feels like I'm playing on easy mode.
Oh,
because like, get outside, get movement. He's like, you do it every day. And he's just like, when I'm at school, like I just do those things now because it's like
oh,
you showed us, right? Like this is you showed us. And so when folks ever say about like, oh, I feel guilty, being a woman who takes care of herself is actually probably one of the greatest lessons and examples we can set for our kids.
totally.
And he's like, "Literally, mom, like, I literally feel like I live life on easy mode because of the hard work that you put in." And he's like, "And I wanna make sure, like, I'll be able to do that for my family. Like, I want to be able
Oh,
to do that for my family." And so whenever I have moments where, again, guilt is part of the lived experience.
yes.
The question when, if one of my clients or somebody said to me, "Robin, I feel guilty for going to the gym or doing whatever it is that helps you be well," the way that we unpack that, Ariana, is to say, "Okay, well, we feel guilt when we broke a rule." See, that's where, like, the origin of guilt comes from. So the question I would ask them is, like, "What rule did you break?"
Mm,
And for many women, the rule that they are breaking is this idea that they're allowed to look after themselves when all the other work is done. And, like, that even, like, goes back to, like, our childhood where it's like, "Hey, can I
totally.
go play with my friends after you've done your homework?" Right? Like, "Oh, can I watch TV after you finish dinner?" Like, it was
Mhm.
always like, you have to do X and then you can earn Y. And I get nervous for a lot of women who they feel like I have to get everything done and then I'm allowed to take care of myself. But as a mother and a businesswoman, like there's always something we
It
could be
never
doing.
ends.
It
Yeah.
never ends. So having to like unlearn that rule that we're
Mm,
allowed to take care of ourselves during the moments of service and productivity. Like it's
yeah.
part of how we do it and we're not breaking a rule. And then I get to fast forward 20 years and I see a kid telling me like, "Mom, like gosh, life's on easy mode because I know how to look after my body. I know how to look after relationships." It's just like because those are the things that I did when they were growing up. So you're giving
Oh,
your all 3 of your babies, you're giving them such an amazing example of what it takes to actually figure out life right now in 2025, 2026 when things feel really noisy and complicated.
totally. I love that so much because when you're saying, "Oh, I can only do this after I do this or after everything else is taken care of," it's like your self-care becomes a reward. Like, you
Yes.
don't need to reward yourself just to take care of yourself, you know? That should be, like, the bare minimum, but
Yeah.
we really have to focus on switching that mindset, and it is very hard to do that. But I
Yeah.
think once you get in the routine of it and you
Mhm.
see the benefit, like, it's
Yeah.
one thing to hear it, but when you witness it, when you show up as a better mom, when you have a really great day, when you're so productive and so happy and you come home and you're not burnt out,
Yeah.
like, then you realize, "Okay, I can't stop doing this because it will
Exactly.
ruin my life," you know?
Exactly,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you miss it, right? It's like
totally.
it's that same kind of like you crave what
You
it
do.
feels like to feel optimal, right? So I
Totally.
totally appreciate that. So again, there are so many different questions and curiosities I have for you. I feel like I could talk to you for days. And you talk about in your work, in your content, you talk about this idea about, we have to do kind of what's best for ourselves to be able to be our best self. And I just
Mhm.
think, again, we're talking around that right now, but I would love to hear your take on this idea about your best self and kind of pouring in to yourself. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Again, I appreciate we've talked in a circle about it, but I would just love to hear how you say it because you say it so well.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I just really truly believe that you can't give from an empty cup, you know? So if you're not really focusing on your needs, like, it sounds silly, but when I had the twins, I would literally hold my pee all day until somebody
Yes.
came home to hold
Yeah.
one of the babies so I could go pee.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is like, I remember my therapist being like, Ariana, that's a basic necessity.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
have to stop holding your pee. And I
Yeah.
would be like in pain waiting for somebody to come home
Yeah.
to hold a baby. And I'm thinking, like, why was I doing that? Then I wasn't giving intentional great time to these kids. I was just like suffering in silence. And so I'm really now reflecting back on that and realizing like I am the best version of myself. I'm the happiest that I can be when I'm taking care of me. And a lot of that now is focused on like physical things,
Yes.
but a lot of it is also mental. Like sometimes it's just like taking a minute to drink a hot coffee. You know, when I started on this, what I call my wellness journey,
Yeah.
it was like I could sit here and have, like, a little bit of a lunch break, or I could
Yeah.
go for, like, a five-minute walk with
Yeah.
a coffee and feel
Yeah.
so full of life after that. Like, when I really reflected and realized how much happier I was
Yeah.
from just something so little, I
Yeah.
realized, like, "Okay, this is much more simple than I'm making it out to be." You know,
Mhm.
I don't have to
Yeah.
recreate who I am, I just have to treat
Yeah.
myself with a little bit of respect.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize, like, I would never say the things I'm telling myself to my friends
Mhm.
because I don't believe it. So why am I having such negative self-talk to me? So
Yeah.
I really honestly turned it back to respect and love. Like we talk
Yes.
about self-love, but this concept is very hard when you're so low. But if we look at it as respect,
Mhm.
I think it's much easier to treat human beings with respect than love. Love is like
Yes.
the next level of
Yeah.
that. I sometimes think a bit of them are the kind of overlapping,
Yeah.
but I really just started to think like, okay, I need to respect myself. If I don't respect myself, how can I expect other people to
Yes.
respect me?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we talk about that in my research around this idea about self-stewardship. And
Mm,
stewardship really invokes the sense that we have a moral responsibility, right? And if I say my number one thing in life is being a parent to my 3 kiddos, I have a moral responsibility to take care of their mom, right? Like
totally.
I have this moral responsibility to look after me, and because as you've described, when we look after ourselves, it just everything becomes a lot easier, right?
Yeah.
Everything becomes more in a line. How do you navigate, for example, when and I this has recently happened to me when I was doing work down south, and someone's like, like almost like you're too happy, Robin.
Mm.
And I was just like, "I love that you think I'm too happy." Like, I actually was just like, "Interesting." And they're like, "Your life really can't be that great." And I'm like, "It actually is." Like, I've
Aw.
had dark seasons, like, don't get me wrong. I've navigated very tumultuous seasons on so many different fronts, and I appreciate everything on such a visceral level. Like, what you were describing around that hot coffee, 5 minutes, I'm like, "Ooh," like, I could feel how awesome that is, right?
Yeah,
Like, the little things bring me, like, the deepest joy,
same, yeah.
and the littlest hurts hurt really deep as well, right? So
Totally.
it's a double-edged sword where it's like the little things make me so happy and the little things hurt me so much, and
Yeah.
that's just how I show up in the world, and I imagine as somebody who literally has built their content around joy, there's gonna be some people out there that are just like, "Really? Like, life is hard. Like, what are you doing bopping around, being happy, healthy, living your best life, living your dream, lifting heavy things, drinking coffee, having a beautiful family? Like, how
Mm.
dare you be great right now?" How do you even respond to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time I share the negative too. So
Yeah,
I do share a lot of, like, the hard times. I'm really open with, um, my life, the struggles, and the benefits.
yeah,
I would say the negative things that I get aren't often like, "Oh, how are you so happy?" It's more like,
yeah.
"Oh, I wanna be like that," which just
Aw, of
amps me up and inspires
course.
me because
Yeah,
it's like once you drink the Kool-Aid, like, you want
yeah.
everybody to get this. I just want
Yes,
everybody to feel the way that I feel now,
yes,
especially if you are where I was, 9 months ago.
yes.
So I don't so much get that, like, "Oh, you're so happy, must be
Yeah,
nice," kind of thing. I
yeah,
do get a lot of, um like haters, I guess, because
yeah,
that's the online space.
yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to deal with, but I often think it depends on what's going on in my life at the time. If
Mhm.
I'm in like a low um space or mental state, then it hurts me a little bit more than if I'm
Fair.
happy and I can just brush it
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
I do think I just try to really showcase that like two things can be true. Like I always
Okay.
remember that I can be having a hard day and also still be like happy.
Yeah.
And I really, really try to just showcase to people like you can give yourself grace. You
Yes.
can be happy, you can be having a bad day, but as long as you're treating yourself with respect and showing yourself a little bit of grace, like life is hard. Things
Yeah,
are hard.
yeah.
Things are not always like rainbows and butterflies,
Mhm.
but I think it does go back to finding the joy in every moment, in
100%.
like these little things and really remembering like the life I'm living now is the life I wanted 5 years ago.
Yes.
So,
I
like,
love
I
that.
need to be happy and content with that. Like,
Yeah.
that's incredible, and so always having that, like, perspective and kind of reflecting. I live a very, very busy life, but I
Mhm.
really try to hold space to reflect and realize, like, "Look what's happening. Look where I am. My kids are healthy." Like, for
Yeah.
so long, I thought, like, "Are they ever gonna recover from being preemies? Am I always gonna have that to kind of think about and look after?" Like, I just try to really practice gratitude
Yes.
and yeah, reflect
Yeah.
on life.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and you're absolutely right, and I do appreciate even how you share some of the struggles. it isn't like sensationalizing it. It isn't attention seeking, which sometimes you see out there in the
Totally.
social space. So I just appreciate just that realness of it.
Oh, thanks.
And I think that's really refreshing. I remember recently, I saw a comment on a post that I had done, and it was not very nice. And it was funny. I was like literally sitting out front of Starbucks, and Jax was beside me, and I just had my coffee, and he's like, "Mama, what happened?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just read something that wasn't very nice." And he's like, "Who do I have to go f up?" And I like burst out laughing, and I'm like, "Nobody, buddy." And he's like, "Mom, I'm still like, I would get hit with juvie. Like I'm 17. I'd get hit with juvie." And I was like, I like literally burst out laughing. And it's just like, and now it was funny because another, comment was made, and I like started to laugh just remembering how like Jackson was just like, "Who am I going to F up?" And it's like, and obviously he isn't, I'm not encouraging violence, obviously, as a
Of
mother,
course.
but it was just like this moment where it's just like a radical reset on what matters most. And the fact
Totally.
that I'm safe, I'm in my car, I'm with my little bestie, or out on our way to a ball game. I have this little thug beside me, right? Like it was
Yeah.
all the things where I was just like, yeah, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
But again, as you said, if you're not feeling well resourced, right? Or where
Yeah.
you are in a particular moment or a day or a big feeling, and sometimes there's that wee bit of judgment or negativity that comes in, especially
Mhm.
when you are so open. Like we want to be gentle with ourselves in those moments.
Totally, and I think it definitely depends on, like, where I'm at when I read these messages as to how
Yeah.
it impacts me for sure. I made a post a couple days ago that went off, like, I got so many messages about it because there was a comment about my weight loss. Somebody had said something that, like, hurt my the way that
Yeah.
it was worded hurt my
Yeah.
feelings. I was also just, like, having a day, so I think
Fair.
it impacted me more, and then at the same time, I received a message from somebody who I actually know, like, not a stranger, about the same thing, and it was a message where I think he was actually trying to be nice, but it just
Yeah.
came off as not nice to me.
Yes.
So I was just, like, heated,
Yeah.
and so I made a post about I took some time, made a post about it. It was very therapeutic for me to,
Yeah.
like, actually
Yeah.
talk it through and think about it. Um, but it depends for sure, like, where you're at as to how that impacts you, and then I really realized, like, okay, I share my life so much online, but I don't subscribe to the idea that that immediately requires you to get hate.
Yeah.
I know when people so many people say, "Well, you're posting like that, then, like, you have to
Comes
expect
with
that
it.
that's gonna
Yeah.
happen." I'm like, "No, like, I don't." When I was in real estate, I didn't, like, dress a certain way thinking that it just opens me up for people to judge me on what I'm wearing. Like, you don't go to an office writing an email thinking like, "Oh, since I'm writing this, people might come at me with hate." Like,
Yeah.
no, 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 this is my job, and so that doesn't just immediately mean that people can be mean.
Yeah.
That being said, I think it does open up really good conversation, and when people want to say something, I'm open always to having conversation. Um, but yeah, I just was like, "That was mean," and so
Yeah.
I went off about it, and
Yeah. I love that. And I also love that you're open to that because in full disclosure, I'm not evolved enough in most cases, right? Like,
mm,
honestly, like I like know my nervous system enough to be like, I am not evolved enough to be able to hold space to engage in this because like I literally just think that you're being super mean and I'm just going to be like, like that's a blessed block, right? Like
yeah,
I love that you're open to engage.
yeah,
I just know my nervous system well enough to be like, I am not evolved enough to be able to do this the way I might want to, and maybe I will
yeah,
be in the future, but right
yeah.
now, my resources are going to other places.
And you can pick and choose, and the funny thing is, like, I had so many friends and people reach out being like, "I'm so sorry that person messaged you that," and I was like, the craziest part is, like, I receive a message like that almost every day. Like,
Exactly.
it's not out of the ordinary, it's just today it bugged me,
Yeah.
so today I did something about it.
I totally appreciate that. Well,
Yeah.
Ariana, I have loved our time in community. Thank you so, so, so very much for spending time with us. I tell you, there's something going on in Western Ontario because the people coming out of Western Ontario, you guys are doing it right.
We're pretty great.
Yeah, so a big thank you to Marissa for introducing us and a
Yeah.
mutual friend. So thank you, Marissa, for in putting these two connections together. I love when people are like, I want you to meet her. I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
And this unfolded. So thank you for your time, your gift of
Aw.
just openness. I hope we can do this again.
Yeah.
So thank you for the invitation. And again, keep shining so bright because you are a bright spot in many people's days. So thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here with me.
Thanks so much, it was so
You're
nice.
welcome. Thank you for spending time with me on this episode of Life by Design. I appreciate if you have a moment to pay this forward, share it with someone who you think might benefit from the ideas shared in this episode. you're feeling so inspired, please also rate and review the podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.